There's a famous quote by Martha Graham, which is, "The body never lies." You hear a lot these days, get back in your body, be in your body, listen to your body, trust your body. But what does that really mean? And after a lifetime of dissociating and separating yourself from your body, how do you begin to reacquaint yourself? Is it true that you should always trust your body, or are there some times when you shouldn't trust your body? I'm Mary Lofgren. This is the School of Sensual Living, and these are the questions we're going to be answering in this audio. So if you're coming to this from the blog, I'm tempted to say welcome to the podcast, but this isn't really a podcast yet. This is an audio where I am flirting with the idea of having a podcast. And as I was sitting down to write this blog about trusting your body, lately, the last few months, I just have not been able to get it up creatively for my blog. And I'm a writer and I love writing. And yet there's just been this desire to go to a different depth of intimacy with you as the reader, or in this case, the listener. And so before launching on a big venture, I always want to hear from you and how I can serve you best. And so below this audio, you'll find a link to submit your ideas and desires around what would you love to see in a podcast around sensual living. If you could create your own collection, a trousseau of lessons around sensual living, what would you like to see on the curriculum? Please click that link and submit your ideas. I can't wait to read them. And so, as I shared at the beginning of the audio, you hear a lot these days about listening to your body and trusting your body. But after 20, 30, 40, 50 years of having an untrustworthy relationship with someone or something, it's a really challenging rewire to immediately fall into its arms like you're doing a trust fall. And so what I want to share with you in this audio are 3 ways to begin reacquainting yourself with the language of your body when you may not want to listen to your body. Or maybe not listen, but not necessarily trust and give authority to your body in the decision-making process. And finally, how to get back into your body in moments where you feel like, I remember once working with a health coach, Elisa Vitti, who's a good friend and author of a new book called In the Flow, which is all about aligning your life with your feminine cyclical nature, which is really revolutionizing my life and my health. And years ago, I was health coaching with her, and I remember saying to her, "Elisa, I feel like I was living in New York City at the time. I live in Brooklyn, but my pelvic organs exist in like a warehouse in the Bronx," like it felt so incredibly separate from me. I just couldn't even imagine feeling connected to my pelvis. That's very different now, I'm proud and grateful to say. But, it's like in those moments where you feel like you're on one planet and your body or your connection to your body is on another planet, how do you begin to walk the labyrinth back into the heart of your body? And it's maybe not easier than you think, but perhaps a bit simpler than you might think in those moments. So, when we talk about listening to your body, it's important to begin by acknowledging that everything we do in life is the result of a decision. What you have for breakfast, who you decide to marry, what you do for a living, whether you take the dog on a walk or you just let the dog out in the yard, what time you go to bed, what you do when you go to bed, all of these are little tiny decisions that we make day in and day out. Some are more tiny, like what to have for breakfast. Some are larger, like who you're going to marry or what you're going to do for a living. And most of our decisions are an automatic response to what we've been told throughout life is right or wrong, good or bad. And these decisions are made by the conditioned part of our mind, the mind that has been shaped by life experience, but also by the thought systems and beliefs of the world that we live in. And of course, our mind is a wonderful, intelligent, sophisticated, marvelous thing. And yet, there is a different, more complex, often more sophisticated, more ancient, and sometimes more wise intelligence, which is the intelligence of your body. So we have these expressions: follow your heart, trust your gut, feel it in your bones. And have you ever been in a relationship that maybe looked good on paper, but just didn't really feel right? And thinking back to maybe how that relationship turned out in the end. Or have you ever had a similar experience where you go in for a job interview and they make you maybe a great offer, but you have this feeling in your bones that something's not right? For those of us who identify as being empathic or intuitive, that can be a great gift, and it can also be a great hindrance because of the world that we live in, which does not honor, much less exalt, listening to that very profound body wisdom. I once had a therapist. I was in the therapist's office deliberating over an important decision, and I remember her advice, which was, I'm not going to tell you what to do because that's not my job, but I will tell you that I've never not been glad that I trusted my gut. I've never regretted trusting my gut instinct. I've regretted not trusting my gut instinct, but I've never regretted trusting it. And that advice really, really stayed with me. And sometimes what you might be feeling in your body are sensations of fear or panic or anxiety. And I share that because, especially when it comes to the conditioned mind always wants things to be polarized, right or wrong, good or bad, trust your mind, trust your body, either or. And that's not really what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is including your body in the decision-making process and including your body to help end the epidemic of numbness that goes on, not only in the physical body, but in the emotional body and in the intuitive body, the energetic body, when you're cut off from the physical experience of knowing. And so in this audio, what we're about to dive into with these 3 ways to listen to your body, 3 times that you may not want to listen to your body, and 3 ways to get back into your body when you've drifted far away, is about helping you make better decisions that feel more authentic, but also helping to deepen the intimacy that you experience in your relationships, helping you to be more present and more fulfilled by the everyday ordinary of life, not needing the experience of extreme excitement and overstimulation in order to feel in your body. Being able to feel more helps you be more creative and helps you access your authentic, truthful voice in any situation. And so, in addition to helping you make better decisions, what these techniques and really this journey is really about is helping you show, we have a saying at the School of Sensual Living, learn how to be in your body so you can fully be in your life. And so without further ado, I'd love to begin by talking about 3 ways to begin listening more deeply to your body. Whether you're an absolute beginner or you're a seasoned somatic samurai, these tips are for you. So the first tip of how to begin listening to your body is really simple. And it is the simple act of deliberate noticing. So we're going to start with a little experiment. I'm going to share a thought with you or a statement. And I want you to just notice what sensations you may feel in your body when you allow yourself to think these thoughts. So the first thought is, I have enough time, I have enough love, I have enough money. I have enough. I have enough time, I have plenty of time, I have enough love, I have enough money. And so if that were true, which I imagine that on some level, on some plane, in this moment, you have enough time, you have enough love, you have enough money. What does that feel like? What does that thought feel like in your body? And now, experimenting with the thought, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough love, I don't have enough money. There's no time, I'm out of time, there's not enough love in my life, I have no money. Noticing what those thoughts or those statements conjure up sensationally in your body. And so you may have noticed that with the first thoughts, what I noticed in myself is a softness, almost like an Angora or mohair kind of sweater, like a really soft kind of fuzzy feeling. And with the second set of thoughts, I noticed a gripping sensation. All of this was happening in my chest. For you, the sensations might happen in your belly, they might happen in your pelvis, they might happen in your big toe. Everyone is different. And you may not have felt anything at all, or you may have felt like I can't. For some people, it's like you can't really process thoughts that aren't your own, or you can't process something that's not a belief that you have, and I understand that. But I share that with you as an experiment and an exercise to notice when you have a thought or a belief or something comes your way, to actively use your attention to sweep through your body and notice what are the sensations that this thought or belief or experience is creating in my body. And then to use whatever words you can to describe what that sensation is. So to use another example, as I think about just, a personal example from my own life, as I think about the rest of my day, what I have planned for my day today is work, like lots of work, going to this meditation group it's not unpleasurable, but it's not, lounging on a fainting couch, eating bonbons and smoking clove cigarettes, if you know what I mean. And so when I think about the rest of my day is boring. I feel like a house plant that hasn't been watered in a year and is just marching towards its death, that if you were to just touch it, the leaves would just crumble under your fingertips. But when I think about the rest of my day and I think to myself, today I get to do really creative work. And today I get to go to this meditation group and I get to listen to people. When I reframe the experience in the context of the opportunity of the rest of the day rather than the obligation of the rest of the day, I feel a lightness and I feel an excitement. And how I know I'm feeling those things is the quality of the sensation in my body. And so this is not a podcast or an audio about shifting your beliefs. That's a whole other conversation. What it is a conversation about is about noticing the way that your beliefs and your experiences affect the sensations in your body. And then as best you can, using your words to describe those sensations, which provides you with information. That's another important thing to be aware of when it comes to this practice of listening to your body, is that sometimes I know for myself, I think, oh, if I just trusted my body all the time, I would get to the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And again, that's that conditioned mind, that binary polarized good or bad kind of mind, when the truth is, when you listen to your body all the time, really what you get is just a lot more information. What we're looking for is not right or wrong. It's just, what is the information that I can source from inside rather than just outside, or rather than just the voice of my conditioned mind. Number 2, in terms of nurturing and listening to your body, is to pursue the relationship and the communication with your body the way you might pursue any other relationship. So if I were in a relationship with a friend or with a partner, and I wanted to open up the lines of communication, what I would probably do is I would take that person out to a beautiful location, and I would order a delicious beverage, maybe some snacks, and I would turn off my phone, and I would put all of my attention on that person. And when they're speaking, I would listen deeply. And when I was speaking, I would listen deeply to my own inner voice, and I would minimize distractions as much as possible. And I would make a habit of doing that on a semi-regular basis, so that it's not just a one and done, so that the opportunity for communication is there. I remember when I was married, my ex-husband had a great relationship with his mom. And I once asked him about, when he was a teenager, because when I was a teenager, I wanted nothing to do with my parents, and I was a bit of a hellion, and there was no communication going on. But with him and his mom, there was a lot of communication, and it's because every night after dinner, they would play solitaire, and they'd each have their deck of cards, and they would just sit there and they'd be doing something kind of passive, entertaining, again, that conditioned mind, so that they could just be in each other's presence, in companionable presence, and have conversations. And that always really stuck with me. And so nurturing the relationship with your body, what that might look like is, if you spend your entire day sitting on a desk chair, it's probably going to feel really hard to trust and communicate with your pelvis. And so what you might want to do is excuse yourself to the bathroom and turn on a luscious song and do a few spirals with your hips to reawaken that voice in your pelvis and to reconnect to that presence. Something I really love to do is I love to, especially if I'm stressed out, I will connect with what sensations are happening in my body. What do I notice when I allow the inner eye of my attention to go inside? And I will dialogue with those sensations in my journal. So for example, I notice a blobby sensation in my belly, right around my belly button. And then I'll write in my journal, hello, blobby sensation around my belly button. Or maybe I'll draw it, or I'll allow the sensation to write to me. Or if I'm in a place where I can't really write, is I just focus in on that sensation and I allow it to get bigger. So it's really common when you're feeling an uncomfortable sensation for, again, the conditioned mind to want to do whatever is possible to stop it and to fix it. And that includes minimizing it. But in many cases, those sensations, what's painful about it or uncomfortable about it is not the sensation itself, it's the anxiety to stop the sensation. And so by taking a pause and taking a few deep breaths down into the belly and saying to the body, what you got? I'm here. I'm listening. Whatever you're saying, let's give you a microphone. Let's make it louder. And then cultivating that part of yourself that's able to step back and to witness that sensation without becoming the sensation. So those are just some ways to open up those lines of communication. One other tip that I learned from Koya, which is spelled Qoya, which is a movement practice that I really love for getting in touch with your body, is the shuffle oracle practice. So maybe you've got something on your heart that you want to explore, like a decision or something that you might be confused about or stressed about. And you just go to your Spotify and you pull up a playlist and you ask for a message and you hit shuffle. And then you dance that full song and you listen for any messages from your body. And that can be a really fun way to open up those lines of communication with your body as a dance partner. So those are 3 ways to begin nurturing the courtship between you and the language of your body. And I want to say that there's no right or wrong way to listen to your body. It's all one big experiment. It is a lifelong discovery, like learning a new language. It takes a really long time to become fluent. And even once you become fluent, you may never speak with the same fluency as someone for whom that is their first language. And so if you notice yourself challenged or meeting resistance around that, instant forgiveness, just simply showing up to make the effort is the practice. The results take care of themselves over time. And all of that said, there are some times when listening to your body means listening to the voice of fear, or listening to the voice of stress, or listening to the voice of depression. And so what are the times when you may not want to listen to your body? So there's three examples that I can think of. There's multiple examples, but I'm going to focus on 3 today. One is when you're stressed out beyond measure. Stress clouds your ability to not only think clearly, but to feel articulately. If articulately is a word, I'm not entirely sure that it is. But, when you're under stress and the chemicals of adrenaline and cortisol are coursing through your veins and your heart rate is elevated and you probably haven't slept, what it does is it clouds the lines of communication between your body and your psyche. And so it's not that you don't want to listen to your body in those moments, but what I would suggest in those moments is doing whatever you can to reopen and de-static those lines of communication so that you can be sure that it's your authentic voice speaking to the best of your ability, rather than the voice of fight, flight, freeze, which is the automatic when you're in a state of high stress. The second time where you may want to question the voice that is seeming to come from your body is when you feel depressed. And I want to clarify that, depression, in my experience especially, is different from sadness or grief or anger or anxiety or any of these other kind of emotions. There's almost like a sweetness and an awareness to those emotions. Whereas depression just feels like an overwhelming sense of numbness. The lights have gone out. It's almost like being possessed by the dark angel of existential dread, which takes over your body. And I don't want to not encourage you to listen to your body in those moments, but here's what I would recommend. When you are feeling depressed and your impulse is to stay in bed, to not take care of yourself, to not do anything, to just stay in a position of stasis. What I ask myself, and what I would encourage you to ask yourself too, is how's my hydration? How's my sleep? Have I socialized with anyone in the last 24 hours? Have I talked to or been with an actual human being? Have I moved my body, even if it's just to walk around the block? And how's my blood sugar? And if all of those questions, if all of those areas have been satisfied and you still want to stay in bed, I encourage you to stay in bed. Listen to the voice of your body. But the essence of what I want to say is that with depression, sleep, blood sugar, hydration, isolation, these are all things that once again cloud and create static in that line of communication between you and your body. And so tending to these baseline level of human needs can help to improve the quality of that connection between your body and your psyche. The last time where you may not want to trust the voice of your body is when you have the sensation of your body that something has to happen right now. That feeling when a situation is unresolved and you just want to fix it. You just want to fix it right now. Or I have to have that pair of boots right now. Or I have to text this person right now. Usually when that voice is at play, what's behind that sensation of urgency, what that physically feels like in my body, I feel it usually like on my torso, like on the insides of my arms and across my chest as just this like shaking, trembling feeling of almost like I'm going to just explode out of my skin. And when that's happening, I can almost guarantee for myself that something has occurred that has stimulated my wee little adrenal glands atop my kidneys to begin secreting these chemicals that tell my mind something has to happen right now. And I don't know about you, but I seem to find that decisions made from a place of spiked adrenaline and cortisol just never really seem to turn out that well. Whereas when I can take a step back and do some of the things that I'm about to describe in this next section, which is how to get into your body, get back in your body when you've been distant, and move from not the yelling voice of urgency, but more the soft, quiet voice of truth, those decisions, for better or worse, just seem to turn out better. Again, it's not about right or wrong, good or bad. It's just about what is going to create the most favorable outcome when we look at this as a test of decisions made on adrenaline versus decisions made from quiet truth. And in my experience, decisions made from quiet truth usually tend to turn out better. So in those moments when you feel out of your body or where you feel adrenaline and cortisol has taken over and you're in fight, flight, freeze, or where you just feel shut down or you feel distant, how do you get back into your body? And so there are thousands of ways that you can get back into your body. And I want to say, someone I follow on Instagram that I really love, her name is Somatic Witch. And I read something recently that talked about how the wellness industry will lead you to believe that getting back into your body requires that you buy something, but that the body's natural healing process is very intuitive and very much free. And so I want to start by saying that when it comes to getting back into your body, a lot of times I think like, oh, I need to go get a massage, or I need to go to the spa, or I need to, have sex with someone or something like that, like something where something outside of me is required in order for me to get back into my body. And I want to assure you that that is a conditioned mind response to that idea that healing lies in the hands of others. And the point of this entire podcast is to help you remember the innate healing capability that exists inside your own body. And so one of the most powerful ways that I find to get back into my body is through movement, specifically movement that is kind to my body. And so in moments where I'm feeling disassociated or where trauma is activated or where I'm feeling anxious, it's just probably not the best time for me. It might be true for you if your body loves this kind of movement, but it's like probably not the best time for me to go do like some super intense boot camp style fitness class like in front of a mirror. Like it's just not really going to be very kind on my mind. And so for me in those moments, going out and setting a timer and walking for at least 30 minutes in the outdoors is really helpful. Going to a class like Koya or doing a Koya video, just anything that I can do to reestablish that connection, which for me is like Koya, breath, walking. Sometimes it's that more vigorous, more intensive kind of movement, because sometimes taking too gentle of an approach, it feels like collapse. So again, this is another conversation, another podcast, but when we talk about polyvagal theory and the structure of your nervous system, it's like the opposite side of the coin of fight, flight, freeze, or perhaps a more advanced experience of fight, flight, freeze is utter and complete shutdown and collapse. And so in those moments, it's like going to a yin yoga class might not be what I need. Maybe I do need to go do something more active, like a Broadway dance class or something like that. But suffice to say that any kind of movement to help get back into your body is a really fundamental way to inspire that healing from within and to reignite that line of communication. In contrast, stillness and mindfulness is also a really powerful way to get back into your body. Because usually when you feel separate from your body, or I'll just speak for myself, when I feel separate from my body, it has very little to do with my body and a lot more to do with my thoughts. When I feel separate from my body, it's usually because anxiety is skyrocketing. And if I take the time to meditate, sometimes all I'll do is meditate for 3 to 5 minutes at a time, but something to reconnect to that eternal presence of stillness, of space between the thoughts, helps me reestablish my connection to actually being able to be present in my body and not lost in the turbine of my mind. And the third and my most favorite way to get back into my body is through the art of simple pleasures. And so simple pleasures can be something as simple as burying your face in towels that come straight out of the dryer, or adding a lime wedge to your water and taking a moment to smell the rind and have that intense fragrance of the zest invade your senses. It can be as simple as walking into a room, allowing your hips to take the lead rather than your head or your feet. It can be something as simple as pouring a glass of wine and really savoring the sound of the glug, 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 and the splash of the wine hitting the crystal. It can be warming up coconut oil and pouring it over your skin before you get out of the shower. It could be getting dressed without a mirror and choosing your wardrobe solely on how good an item feels to your body. It could be, this is one of my favorite simple pleasures at night, is to light my house entirely by candlelight and to turn off my phone and to read by candlelight and to give my senses a break from artificial light, even if it's just for an hour. All of these are ways that you can, again, use what's already there without having to source your experience of presence in your body outside of yourself with some expensive or extravagant affair. Simply using your senses to get back in your body is really the essence of why the School of Sensual Living exists. For me, I've done a ton of work on trauma resolution and on healing and on recovery and all of these different aspects of my life to help regain my sense of myself. And all of them have been helpful in giving me tools to navigate through life authentically. But there is a emollient quality to pleasure and to everyday sensuality that if I think about therapy and, that deeper kind of shadow work, it feels heavy. It feels like a lot of work. And it's almost like stitching up a wound. Whereas the joy of simple pleasures and beauty and embodiment and everyday sensuality are like the ointment that actually provides the healing, right? So on my website, on schoolofsensualliving.com/50, if you enter the number 50 after schoolofsensualliving.com, you'll find I once wrote a little ebook, like a free kind of bonus of 50 simple ways to be in your body through the art of simple pleasures. And I mentioned some of them on this podcast here. But really what these are about is these simple everyday moments, ways to imbue beauty and sensuality and pleasure and embodiment and softness into your everyday experience. So schoolofsensualliving.com/50. Please enjoy that book as you feel led. And so in closing, I want to say what a joy it's been to share this with you via my voice. Usually I'm sharing my voice with you via the written word, but it's really fun to interact with you again and interact with you in this way. And again, I just want to say that if you enjoyed this audio and you have thoughts or ideas or desires around what you'd like to hear as it pertains to what we talked about today, simple pleasures, beauty, embodiment, sensual living in general, I am jaws wide open, ready to receive your feedback, licking my chops. So wherever you are listening to this, if it's on my website or if it's on YouTube, below this video, you will see a link to submit your feedback. I also want to say that I'm recording this in my bedroom in New York City, so there may be some background noise, and if I do decide to do a podcast, we will certainly up-level that, so I apologize if there's been any interference. And I am wishing you a experience of being in your body that feels like home. The essence of this audio and really everything we do at the School of Sensual Living is giving you tools to feel back at home inside your own skin. And so it is my sincere wish that even if it's just for a nanosecond, these tools help you to have that felt sense and that felt experience. Thank you so much for listening.